Welcome to WDFN.com, and also if you're over on our sister station 106.7 The DRocks.com. I proudly sport. You can be happy today. Go Rays.
Winners of 8 in a row. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Way to go. Thank you, Evan Longoria.
Yeah, big weekend for the Tigers, but we're going to talk college football here on this week's Friday Faceoff. It's Eric Shep from Shep in the Morning. We know the Big Ten is down, whether it's just one of those years. It's cyclical. This is the way things are going to be.
They say it every year, though.
This year is a little more dire than others, but we'll see. Came across one article as I was doing some Vikings research from the Star Tribune. They have an article about how this is probably emblematic of the population shifts in the country. And here's the statistic. In 1961, when our president was born, 54% of the population lived in the Midwest and the Northeast. A couple of years ago, that number is down to 39%.
Wow.
There's population growth of 13 and 14% in the South and West. How is the Big Ten supposed to get better, be back as a preeminent conference in the country? We can use the word elite. If there's fewer people, and fewer people usually means less talent to choose from.
Well, wait a minute. Do you have to live in the Midwest to play in the Midwest? Michigan gets plenty of team players from Texas and California, as does Ohio State, as does Michigan State. With Wisconsin, probably not so much. There's nothing written in any type of coach's contract that I'm aware of that says you've got to have X amount of players from your state, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, whatever the case may be. That doesn't mean they can't attract some players. Now,
but how do they?
How do they? They do so with reputation, with facilities, with the chance to play, and with challenging schedules, just like anybody else would throughout the country.
I think the Urban Meyer thing is going to be a great litmus test for the Big Ten. Do you agree?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Why
I
not?
don't. Why? Because he came from Florida? How about when he started his career at Bowling Green and went to Utah?
Will the things you just mentioned attract some of those kids who are being courted by...
Those kids also came for Jim Tressel when he was there. Those kids came for John Cooper, but they couldn't beat Michigan.
Will it keep going? Will Urban Meyer do what Rich Rod failed miserably at? Be able to tweak the character traits of the Big Ten?
Well, he might be able to do that, and that's interesting, but that's a separate argument from whether or not you'll be able to bring kids in from places other than the Midwest to play at your program.
But is the way he runs an offense a little bit more exciting and enticing to some of those high-profile, greatly gifted 17 and 18-year-olds?
All that matters is if they win. If they're going to win and win football games and play on those big stages and play in those big games, that's what kids are going to matter. Well, let me ask you this. You bring up the impressive statistics that the Minnesota Tribune had. Mark D'Antonio has primarily recruited the Midwest. Mm-hmm. He's an Ohio guy. He'll get Pennsylvania, Michigan. He gets a lot of really good players from Michigan. Why is it his team last year was ranked, in the top 10? Why is it his team has won 11 games in each of the last two seasons? Why is it Michigan won 11 games? Why is it that Ohio State is playing in major bowl games? Wisconsin is playing in major bowl games. It's not just because they're from the Midwest, but some of these players from the Midwest are pretty darn good. And let's remember this. There's a lot of schools outside the Midwest that want these same kids who are in the Midwest right now. Are they Texas? Are they Florida? Are they California? No. But they've never been. You're still getting kids from those areas. You're filtering them in. But your predominant fan base, your predominant recruiting battle is waged in Pennsylvania and Ohio anyway.
But when it comes to the kids that are really going to potentially put your program over the top, those wonderfully skilled kids where you look at them. I remember watching Terrell Pryor play his final high school game, and we're all sitting there going...
Pennsylvania kid, by the way.
Yeah, Jeanette kid from Western PA outside of Pittsburgh. It's like, oh boy, I mean, he's going to be in the NFL in a couple of seasons. He is, and with Oakland, he'll probably be starting by the middle of the year. When it comes to those kids, aren't they drawn more to the schools that will likely get them to the NFL?
Maybe, but who isn't? Here's what I would ask you.
The kids that aren't going to go.
Well, why is it Tennessee, who's had, at least when they were there under some of their past coaching regimes, why is it they were constantly built as the number one recruiter, or in the top 5 recruiting base, and they never got over, in your words, over the top? UCLA, most of their roster is from the state of California, not over the top. There's plenty of schools that welcome in those kids from the South and the West and still aren't getting to where you said that they should be. There's a select number of Alabama and LSU. LSU's got a lot of kids from Louisiana, for crying out loud. We've never viewed that as some great nurturing ground for future NFL pros, but it's starting to get there.
I heard you say before, and I agree with you, that one service's 5-star kid is another service's 2 or 3-star kid, and 5-star kids come into school and they flop, and 2-star kids come in and they turn into greatness.
At times. Le'Veon Bell is a 2-star kid.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins was a 2-star kid.
And I think
Will Campbell was a 5-star kid.
I think a lot of that is coaching. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And that's where maybe investing in coaching and reputation and the ability to relate to these kids is as valuable as things like facilities and things like that.
I don't think it's just coaching, but I think it's also, from a coaching standpoint, recognizing when a kid is ready and when he's not. If you could redshirt him, let him stay in that gym, pump some iron, throw some energy drinks in him or some protein shakes in him, get him bigger, get him stronger. Maybe he wasn't afforded that opportunity in high school because he was so talented that they had to play him in certain situations. College coaches see some of that possibilities in them, give them a chance to nurture, and then they take off.
So will the Big Ten ever be within the next half decade or so where, you know, we'll use the measuring stick as the SEC?
I don't think they will. But you know what? I don't think the Pac-10 or the Big 12 will be either, Eric. And I don't know if that's necessarily an indictment on the Big 10 or any of those other conferences, or just another flag to raise for the SEC.
To wrap this up here on WDFN.com, the Friday Face-Off, why do you think that is? Give me one reason. And obviously there's probably a couple, but give me one reason you believe that's mostly the case.
I think it's more difficult to get into Big Ten schools than it is the SEC. And I think that's appealing to a lot of kids and coaches. Absolutely.
Academics. The Friday Face-Off, we do it each week on WDFN.com and the DRocks.com. It's Eric Chase, Matt Shepard. We'll talk to you next week.